You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru attı. Kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Yilmaz. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 237 of the Black Eagles podcast, and I am, of course, your host, Sinan live from New York City, as per usual, where the summer has officially set in. The weather is hot and sticky. Right? I think that's a global phenomenon these days. We're all going through heat waves of various sorts. And just like we are experiencing in the weather, our dear club Beşiktaş things are getting a little hot and sticky over there too. Obviously the big news of the week prior to our friendly against Wolverhampton was that Ridvan Yilmaz ended up peacing out. He's gone. $4 million up front, $2.25 million in bonuses, 20% sell-on fee, right, from his next, wherever he goes next, assuming he does well. Right, it's worth noting Rangers just sold their last left back, the reason they needed Ridvan, for like €22.5 million. So, like, there's a precedent there, right? But anyway, Ridvan's gone. And what that means is we have a hole, in theory, created in his position, and the guys on the squad would have a chance to see if they could step up and fill in that position against Wolverhampton. And so those are basically the topics of this episode.
Operation is in effect as of right now.
That's right. And because this is our first, moment issue, if you will, problem of the summer, I've put out the bat signal, or the eagle signal. Actually, our logo would make a hell of a bat signal, I feel like. We need to get the engineering team on that. But I put up a signal of sorts, and I got our two most trusted pundits, if you will, to send in messages about their thoughts regarding the situation at left wing back. Because Ridvan Yilmaz left, right, there was the question of first, can Umut Meraş step up and fill that role? And a lot of people were very doubtful. I had always been fairly hopeful that he could actually do so, that we wouldn't really need to invest anyway, even if we sold Ridvan. Basically, we'll talk about what happened against Wolverhampton, how our defense looked, how our team looked in general. I guess before I get into any spoilers. But so basically that's like the setup for where the team was going into the match. Ridvan out, this big question mark about what would happen next. And I'm not going to go too crazy with the match itself. It doesn't feel like something I need to spend a ton of time on, because I think most of us know how it went already. It wasn't our finest hour, but even beyond that, what I will obviously do is go through the basic aspects of the match, who played and all of that. Of course, the match was on Saturday, July 23rd, so it's been a couple of days since. So some folks, may have forgotten some of the details. Even still, I'm not going to go over them. Sorry. I just don't want to rehash this one. I'm not particularly keen to. I'll just lay it out as it was. First of all, going into the match, lineups. We had Ersin in goal, but on the back line, right, with Romain Saiz still not ready to come back, Montero out, short-term injury, we hope. We haven't heard many details on that, but I think we can assume that when that's the case. But so as such, we would have a sort of a very much makeshift back line. Necip Uysal, Wellington, and Valentin Rosier would make up the three central defenders. Umut Merash, the left wing back. Tyler Boyd, the right wing back. Jedson Fernandes alongside Salih Ucan. And then Rashid Ghezal behind Jackson Muleka and Wout Weghorst. Or perhaps Jackson Muleka on the left side with Rashid Ghezal on the right side and Weghorst in the middle. That seems to be something he's shifting depending on how he feels. I think he played with the two guys up front though and Ghezal behind them in this match. And yeah, since I'm not going to really go into too much detail on the match itself, I can just sort of say straight up that this was not a good match. And it's a shame, in fact, because for the first 20 minutes we came out and we looked not just better, but dominant. We were playing a great brand of football. We were kind of doing the pressing we need to see us do. Not quite enough from the wingbacks going forward. You know, Tyler Boyd was not bad, I'll say, as on the right side, but Umut Merash was thoroughly lacking. And again, right, I've been his defender this whole time. I've been the Umut Merash, like he can turn it around, he just has to sort of mentally, you know, adjust to positioning himself more forward, being more willing to go forward and press up high, right? That's the most important aspect of them getting forward, is applying pressure so we can move the lines and shift them when we want to. And I'll talk about the tactics and stuff in a moment, but yeah, Umut Merash really struggled. You know, he's really shown that he's more of a left back, doesn't really have that wing back instinct. Fine, it's not the end of the world. It happens. We might need to make a move, right? Like that's I think the big takeaway from this, and it's probably good that we came away with it. You know, still 2 matches left in the preseason. You know, this is the Turkish league, right? We always have transfers coming up until the last day of the window, so it's not like a terrible disaster for us to figure this out now. Of course, there was a question mark. Does Ridvan go? Does he not? We all kind of assumed he would, but after the Eintracht Frankfurt thing came down, I mean, I said it on here. I think a lot of the other guys who have come on have said the same. We all kind of hoped he would stick around. Obviously, it was wishful thinking, and that's borne out. We all know for a fact that was the case, but for what it was worth, right? Like, it's okay to have... I think we were all in the same camp. Perhaps the board was too. And then when that offer came in, it was again like 6.25 with a pretty good sell-on fee after and all that, a percentage cut. I think it was kind of an offer you couldn't really refuse. So I'm not going to go over all the highlights. Like I said, 20 minutes, maybe even 25 minutes, we really looked the better side. Even despite the fact that in the 15th minute, Raul Jimenez would score with no assist because Necip would be the assister, or perhaps Ersin. Bad back pass from Necip. Ersin doesn't do well with it at all. Kind of panics. I think it's like early in the match we haven't seen much of the ball in the back. You know, we've been pressing forward, like I was saying, and so I think it's kind of a brain fart, caught off guard. Being a bit lackadaisical. Luckily, it's a friendly. You can get away with that, sort of. But anyway, Ersin sort of switches off. Raul Jimenez nicks the ball off him, slides it into the back of the net with ease, and they are now winning 1-0, despite the fact that it's against the run of play. But the second one, about 3 or 4, 5 minutes before their second goal, is when the match would turn. And sure enough, in the 29th minute, Daniel Podence, Portuguese player, would put the ball in the back of the net. This was actually just a lovely ball. In the build-up to it, Wellington was nutmegged, kind of embarrassingly, if we're going to be 100% honest too. It is what it is, but you know, one little mistake you'd think that wouldn't necessarily be the end-all, be-all, but sure enough, like a hell of a shot from distance, from kind of just the edge of the penalty box. The assist goes to Ryan Ait Nouri, who is a French left back. It's ironic. It's a left back this kid really impressed. I think most of the people in the old group chat thought so too. Evron was raving about him. Everyone remembers Evron from the podcast. But yeah, Ryan Ait Nouri was really solid. He's credited with the assist. He also, I think, is the guy who nutmegged Wellington. I don't know if a lot of people noticed, perhaps, but yeah, sure enough, very much led up to the goal. I've always said, for me, Wellington is the big question on the back line. But anyway, 35th minute, Jimenez would come off for Den Donker. 40th minute, Neto, a goal. In this case, like, the team switched up. I think a lot of people thought he was offside. Neto sort of dances around Ersin and puts it in the back of the net. Perhaps Ersin could have done better. He dived for the ball a little too early, and Neto just sort of pulls it back out of his reach and then dribbles around him. But Ersin should have also not been left alone to the extent that he was. I think it was either Wellington or Nejib who left his man onside. Like, all alone, right? The rest of the team had shifted, so I think it might have been Nejib, but I mean, yeah, makeshift back line, and this is what you get, right? And so yeah, basically that was it. Before the end of the half, Wout Weghorst and João Moutinho would each get yellow cards. Honestly, I think Weghorst shouldn't have. He just kind of gave a dirty look, whereas Moutinho gave a dirty foul and squared up with Weghorst, so I don't think it's like for like, but whatever. Halftime, Emirhan Yilmaz would come on for Salih Uçan. Ozan Akgün would come on for Umut Meraş, and that's right. Ozan Akgün, who was a striker for as long as I knew of him as a prospect, came in as a left wing back. Crazy. But yeah, there it is. 55th minute, Ruben Neves. The Portuguese Wolverhampton connection is well known. If you guys, you listeners out there aren't aware, now you are. 56th minute, Emre Bilgin would come on for Ersin Destanoglu. George Kevin Nkudu on for Wout Weghorst. And Cenk Tosun on for Jackson Muleka. 60th minute, a yellow card for Wellington, which is, kind of how it goes. 64th minute, Cody came in for Kilman for them. 71st minute, Emirhan Delibaş would enter the match for Rashid Gezal, Berkay Vardar on for Wellington. 76th minute, Kondul on for Neto for them. 79th minute, Kartal Kayra Yilmaz on for Jedson Fernandes. So, good look there. I think Kartal is basically the third option now behind Salih Uçan and Emirhan. And with Joseph out, he could get some playing time, honestly. So it's good to see him getting some playing time here. And also, Emrecan Uzunhan would enter the match, number 24. He took Domagoj Vida's number. He would come on for Tyler Boyd. So, everything switching around. Valentin Rosier back out to the right side, etc., etc. But Cody, yellow card for them in the 85th. Corbeanu on for Collins in the 86th. Lawson Griffiths on for Moutinho. Bueno on for Neves. Lembikisa on for Podence. Ronan on for Castro. Hodge on for Ait Nouri. And Mosquera on for Gibbs White. All of that in the 86th minute. So that's actually an important note. They didn't really go to their bench until almost the very end of the match. Which says a couple of things. It says that they are deep enough into their preseason that they're playing their full team all match, right? And sure enough, this is their 1, 2, 3, 4. This was their fifth, and they've actually had a sixth already preseason match. So they're playing their whole squad out there for much of this match. And the reason that's important to know is because the second half for us was actually much better. We were much more cohesive. We played more the way we would want to, not quite Mainz, right? That was our high point this preseason so far. But at a high enough level, that's okay, what are the changes that we've made here, right? And so Emirhan coming on for Salih was one, which wasn't decisive. I actually thought Salih did a pretty decent job in the first half. But I think the sort of very noteworthy sort of substitution was Ozan Akun coming on for Umut Meraş as the left wing back. And the reason that's significant is because this is the hole we talked about that Ridvan created by leaving. I'm not mad at him, whatever, it is what it is. But this hole that was created was not shored up, right? Ozan Akun is, I don't think, he's not the solution. But just having someone willing to play higher up the pitch, to press higher up the pitch, he showed some deficiencies coming back, but one of the strengths of that three-man back line is you can kind of afford for that, especially if it's just happening on one side and not both, right? So, just having that intent on that side, rather than Umut Meraş, whose inclination is to come back and stay back and not overcommit to attack, ever. He's too cautious, we could say. Just showed that, that's a problem. Umut Meraş is not the solution, which means we do not have the solution currently at left wing back, which means we're back to the transfer market. And it's in a sense our first crisis. It is not a real crisis. This is kind of what's supposed to happen in a transfer window. It's only a quote-unquote crisis because up until now, everything has been such smooth sailing, right? We got the whole team in way sooner than we typically do. They're all getting matches under their feet here, right? They're getting their stamina levels up, their camaraderie and all that, traveling and working together as a unit in Austria and Spain now, right? So it's not a giant crisis. We just need to get a player. It's unfortunate we don't have the solution in-house, right? But it's not atypical, and it's not a giant problem. We just kind of need to get with it. And the good news is that because Ridvan Yilmaz has been on the cusp of leaving for so long, we kind of have a list already, right? There's Bingöl from Alanyaspor, who, I don't know if he's the solution. Frankly, I don't think he is the solution. Tayfur Bingöl is 29 years old, a late bloomer for Alanyaspor, right? I mentioned this before. He's only just come on the radar. It's fine if we bring him in, if we can get him for relatively little. And he's not the guy we're going to as a starter, right? It's great to have depth. It's great to have a Turk, right? We've had Olcay, Şahan in the past. They don't have to be young. They can still be helpful. But you're not trying to get him and say he's the solution, because we know his limitations, I guess we could say, right? So first of all, let's put this all in context, because there's a ton of panic about this Wolverhampton match on our fan base. It's Twitter, right? It's social media. There's always going to be, the loudest voices are never the most intelligent, typically, but they kind of get the sheep behind them. But so people are we can't play with a three-man back line, or at least if you don't have the goods out there, you shouldn't be doing it in this match. Bah, wrong. I can't think of anything more wrong. This is the preseason. These are friendlies. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the whole team used to playing a certain way. We want to play a three-man back line, right? I promised I'd talk about tactics a little. We want to play a three-man back line so that we can have shifting lines, right? With three men back, your wing backs, if you're playing well, if you're playing against a weaker side, or if you have the momentum, they can push forward, and now you have a middle line of four guys that has more power behind it, right? And then they can shift even further forward, right? And then overlap with the guys up front, the wingers like Ghezal, right? Rosier and Ghezal have had a history of interchanging well. Right, but with the three-man back line, it allows you to do that way more comfortably. How many times have we overcommit over the last decade, more? Have we seen guys we're playing great, we're pressing, we're kind of maybe overcommitting to attack because we have that momentum and that confidence, and just one bad pass and a long ball over the back, and just one central defender having a bit of a brain fart, reacting too slow, making a bad contact with the ball, whatever, and bam, we've given away a goal, right? If instead of that one, if you have a three-man back line, one guy can screw up and you have two more guys back there to help him out, right? It just minimizes the impact of committing to different types of football, right? It allows dynamism. It allows sort of free-flowing football to occur where your lines can shift in various ways up and down the pitch. You can come back and defend with a full five-man back line if you need to, right? Even more, right? You can have the guys, your central midfielders, come back and help at it. You can fully commit to defense if you need to. but you don't have to at all, and you can fully commit to attack without making subs, right? That's like, of course, what that means is that those wing backs are key. They are pivotal to the whole thing working, because they're the ones who have to be able to shift those lines. Again, right? Rosier has had so much success already, even without being kind of directed to do so, shifting lines himself, going forward, interchanging with Gazal. And that's the sort of football you want to see, right? And that's why I don't think anyone should be giving up on this 3-man back line yet. Let it set, like, anything takes time. Evolution takes time. There's going to be bumps along the road. You can't just expect perfection at every step, just winning outright against every team we come across. And let me put this in further context. And the reason I want to do that is because it's significant. Evran, who's like, our resident stat guy, compiled a list of the values of the teams we're coming up against, like of their players combined, right? The weakest opposition was Pilsen. And that was our most dominant game. We only drew, but it's because we were still trying to figure out our attack, right? A lot of pieces missing still. But we played pretty decent football. I mean, we really dominated the match, especially on the statistical side. Fine. Second least valuable side was Werder Bremen. Okay, great. We beat them. Our B side, or in fact, our academy players came on and flipped the game. But whatever. In fact, no, I was wrong. The second weakest side in terms of team value is actually Alaves, right? Because they were just relegated from La Liga last season. So hopefully we play pretty well in this next round. Knock on wood. We still have some things to figure out, obviously. The next up would be Werder Bremen, then Sampdoria, who have a 94.6 million euro squad value. Then Mainz, 117 million euro squad value. We beat them. That's the second strongest side as far as like having players. This is a very superficial way of judging these teams, but just how this transfer market, how they value, how the world superficially sees the ability of the players individually, and combine those up. Here's what you have. And finally, the most valuable side by a long stretch was the Wolves, Wolverhampton, 350 million euro squad value, like more than double Mainz. Second most valuable team, right? So this was going to be the hardest match of our preseason, first of all. And so there's something to take from the fact that, for example, in the first 20-25 minutes, we were the much better side. When we had that confidence and kind of that willingness to just play our football, and as soon as that goal was hit against us, not as soon, there were still a few minutes later where we were kind of just going back to how we were doing it, and then we kind of fell apart. But again, right, we had our confidence hit and we didn't come back together. That's not good. And I think that's in large part because we had this crazy makeshift back line, right? The whole back line is not what you're going to see this season. Wellington, Nejip, and Rosier? Nope. No. Tyler Boyd and Umut Medash? Nope. And now we know, right? But anyway, what all of this is, what that whole friendly match showed us is that we have a problem, and it's that we need a player. We need a left wing back. And so, again, like I said, I put out the bat signal, and I have two fantastic dudes here to talk about that problem and what they think needs to be done. So first, I always, when they're both sending in stuff, I alternate between who goes first. So it's Aaron's turn. That's right, folks. Aaron Armstrong, at Aaron E. Armstrong on Twitter, the famed Besiktas Twitter user, is first, and he's going to let us know what he thinks about this left wing back problem.
So, we've just lost Ridvan. He'd been wanting to leave for a while now. We knew that eventually he would leave to play in Europe because that was his dream. He'd been vocal about it. So it has been coming for a while now when we think about it. The problem here is that it didn't come out of nowhere. We should have been prepared for this, and definitely our left back right now since Ridvan left, Umut, is not enough to carry us through the whole season, given that Valera and Ismail's tactic is heavily dependent on the wing-backs. So it's out of question that we need a proper left wing-back right now. Like, every fan or every person will state the same anyway. So when we think about it now, like we have some like fair amount of time left in the window anyways. So the board and our director of football, Jane Kazanji, should be in the market for some extra moves as well. Like, that's what we've been hearing anyways from the reporters who are close to the board and been getting that information. For instance, fanatic reporter Yilmaz has stated that like we're planning to sign at least 3 players. I think now that like one is coming from the actually forgot what team he was playing for. Oh yeah, Bandamaspor. Yeah, we just signed him for pretty much for good money, given that we're expecting him to perform. He will be useful during the rotation and like for the rotation and everything during the season. I mean, so like we have 3 strikers and they can rotate. We have Leka as well, who can be a makeshift striker as well. He's qualified to do that. We're expecting Enkudu to leave, according to the reports that just came out today. I'm speaking on Sunday, the 25th. As of now, like we're expecting to leave as well. I don't know what will happen in the upcoming days. Obviously, nothing's official just yet. But that means that we'll have a spot for a foreign player, which I expect the club to use for a left wing back. I don't know which names will be present, but for sure that we require someone who can play on both ends, who would be useful in the attack as well, not just a single-minded defender. We need someone who is quite auxiliary in that fashion, who could play pretty much as a winger, per the qualifications, so to speak. So right now, given that like we've already used that one spot for the striker, we have like 2 more signings to come. I expect one to come for the left wing, besides the wing back at least. When we were talking about Cabral, it was pretty much done deal. Now that Nkuda's left, I'm expecting that move to go through. Besides that, we also have some like foreigners fill up the quota, but could leave, such as Boyd. Depending on that move as well, we might see a foreign left back, which I believe that will be our next move, just as I stated. And then like we'll see what happens. Basically, it's really a blank space right now. Like we don't know what's to come. We don't know which names are being discussed. We're pretty much left in the dark as fans right now. Like usually the club was expecting the move to go through. Like before Rangers, there was Eintracht Frankfurt, so Ridvan was expected to leave anyways, and like there was this left winger from Alanyaspor, Tayfur, which was being discussed as the next signing, as a potential signing. But I don't think at this point like he'd be a good replacement. So the club, I'm guessing in their mind, they really want to use that extra foreigner spot for a good left wing back, given that the tactic is heavily dependent on the wing backs. So especially in the last game against Wolves, our defense was heavily lacking, and like I'm pretty sure that like the club and the technical team and the manager all saw that, and they've been discussing this and about what to do. In the end, it was a friendly, but nevertheless, we saw our deficiencies and like what we were lacking. Our defense is heavily lacking, as I've just said. Okay, size will come. We've just signed Emre Can. Those players will fit in, but like we need at least two signings for the defense. One being the left wing back, at least one central defender, who would be preferably Turkish. given that the quota is still in place. But depending on what we're planning to do with the squad and who's leaving, we might get another foreigner there. But like that's the plan moving along, pretty much for the next couple of weeks, in which the transfer window will be still open. So with the game upcoming in like 14 days, if I recall correctly, the first game of the season, I mean, we have some big work to do. But in the end, I'm confident in the manager and the system we're trying to implement, because like we saw, like we've seen what it can do against like major teams in friendlies. So if we can employ the tactic correctly with quality players, I'm pretty sure that like we'll be in for a thrill this season. I'm optimistic. So we shall see. And like next week or like in 2 weeks' time, we'll have a much clearer picture of what we're going to do this season.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Aaron. Again, on Twitter, that's at Aaron E. Armstrong, AARONEARMSTRONG. He's very active, often talking about Beşiktaş on Twitter. Good follow, obviously, for any Beşiktaş fan. And thank you, as always, for imparting us with your wisdom, your thoughts. And so next up, of course, is the indomitable Kaan Bayazit, live from Belgium. He is at Razarian, RAZZERIAN. And I asked him the same question. What do you think about this left wing back situation? And oftentimes, Kaan and Aaron have similar though differing viewpoints, and so we get to hear a little bit of diversity. Let's see what our old friend Kaan Bayazit had to say about this very same problem.
So with Ridvan's departure now, we really do need to start looking for a replacement. We've seen in the friendlies already that Umut Meraş, when it comes to going forward, he's not the best option. The last friendly match we saw Oğuzhan Akgün in that position, a natural forward. He did pretty decently going forward, but of course, like 45 minutes or whatever that was of the sample size, it's not enough to decide half of the season on, are we going to go with him? So that's definitely something we have to fill in. Tayfur Bingöl has been talked about for a good while, and really ever since we played Alanya, in the second half of the season, and he put in a good performance. I think he's not an amazing option to have, really. Look, he's clearly had a good career in the second division and in the Super League. If you look at his statistics, he has a high assist and goal ratio, because obviously he's usually more a left midfielder rather than left back, but he could function as a good left wing back. But if he's starter material, I have my doubts. Again, if you look at his career, even at Alanyaspor, like 2 seasons ago, I think he was even loaned out to Bursaspor. The man's 29 years old, It's not like he's a spring chicken. So I have my doubts. If he has trouble establishing himself at Alanyaspor, why would he be a starter for Beşiktaş, right? Squad depth-wise, I think he'd be good. But again, 29 years old, do you really want to spend your money on that? I think the money that we're getting for Ridvan now needs to be spent carefully. And I would find it very sad, really, if we would spend a decent amount of that money on someone like Tayfur. No disrespect to Tayfur, but just profile-wise, 29 years old, never really a big starter for Turkish clubs. He's a guy that you put in as a utility player to put in a shift, but anything under €1 million, I guess, is somewhat acceptable. But if you hear, what they are apparently demanding is 2 million, I think that's absolutely ludicrous. Shouldn't even be a conversation being had. Um, if that is the case. And in terms of offering them a player, I honestly don't really know who we could offer them. Maybe Tyler Boyd, but I kind of like Tyler Boyd in the preseason. I mean, as you know, I've always kind of liked him anyway. And I really do think that with this system and with Valerie Ismail, that Tyler Boyd can be a useful player. We also saw against Wolves and we saw against Mainz, I think, that he played as a right wing back for a while, and he did pretty good in that. Against Wolves, I mean, obviously fans are kind of panicked because of the end result. But really, if you look at the first 15, 20 minutes and you look at the second half against Mainz, you can really see what the plan is for this season. And it looks really, really promising. I don't think that, the way the Wolves match went because of a mistake at the back, a really bad back pass from Najib that Ersin did poorly with. That led to the 1-0, and that kind of woke Wolves up because before that they were literally not leaving their half. We had completely locked them into their own half, and you also have to question yourself, wonder to yourself, like, look, Wolves is in theory a team of 300 million pounds or something like that. Like, how many opponents like that are we realistically going to come across this season? We're not in Europe. Within Turkey, I don't think we're going to come across many teams that can play out from under the pressure that we're putting. If you look at the second half against Mainz, if you look at those first 20 or so minutes against Wolves, like the pressure forward that's being put on them to play out from the back, not a lot of teams are going to be able to cope with that in Turkey right now. Of course, the big question is how long can we maintain that intensity throughout a game? But I think the team consists out of a lot of players that have really good natural fitness. And then on top of that, of course, they've been drilled quite intensively during the preseason. They're going to be ready. I don't really agree with this whole, we should go back to 4 at the back and we need to do something else and blah, blah. No, look, we've been preparing the last couple of months, really, since Valerie Ismail has been in charge, to go and play 3 at the back this new season. And Ismail has shown plenty of flexibility in terms of the shape of the lineup. He's perfectly willing to play with two forwards. He's willing to play with 2 wingers. He has tried a lot of different players in different roles. He has discovered talents for players that I think everyone was writing off already, like Kenan, right? There's plenty of flexibility there, but he is holding on to his 3 at the back. And I find, I tweeted this out yesterday, I find that within Turkey it kind of seems like people are reacting like people were in the 1800s when the train was introduced. They're afraid that 3 at the back is going to have the cows give sour milk or something. It's really quite a common tactic in the top 5 European leagues, and there's no such thing as this won't work in Turkey. It can most definitely work in Turkey. In fact, if you can get it to work, you can probably dominate the league because it's a modern way of play. There's a reason why top teams play these sorts of lineups nowadays, because football has evolved. And you will be hard pressed to find teams that still win anything with 4-4-2. I mean, in the top leagues in Europe. That said, of course, we need to have the right material for this tactic, and in order to play 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, we of course need a good left wing back. And we need to invest in quality there. But with Josef's injury, it's looking more and more likely like we'll have an extra Turk in midfield. Of course, Emirhan was going to make his minutes regardless. And now with Josef being out for 2.5 months, Salih really has stepped up during the preseason camp. He's looked impressive. So we're going to have Salih or Emirhan in the center of midfield anyway. Emre Can hopefully works out. That's a defender at the back. And then Ersin, so that's our 3 Turks. And then we also have Cheng that will play pretty often, probably up front. So we do have the possibility to fill in that left wing back position with a foreigner. I personally have no clue who they will go for. I would personally like us to go for Fasnacht, though. Not that he's a left wing back, but I think if you look at his profile, if you look at his career, he can really add a lot to the team. He can play in pretty much any offensive position. He can play on the left. He can play on the right. He can play he can probably play as a wingback. I am not 100% sure about that. You'll probably not get the most out of him though, because his real strengths seem to be in the offensive third. And as the wingback, you're going to have to defend a lot. But he definitely seems like an interesting player. Although now with Phillipe Kény, he's going to be the replacement for George Kivin-Kudu. But, we have brought in quite a lot of offensive players already. So I don't know if Fasnacht is still on the agenda. I hope he is, because I really think that he could be how should I put it? The steal of the transfer window. Like the one that goes under the radar, but that ends up, being most successful. Although I think Muleka is going to be pretty good as well. But yeah, the left wing back is obviously the priority at the moment. I'm not so convinced about this we need a right center back thing. We have a lot of options at center back. Ideally, you want a right-footed center back there, of course, but I think we have options. And also because Wellington made a couple of mistakes in the preseason, we know what we get from Wellington. He's serviceable enough, and for the league, he's enough. Of course, if we end up winning the league, or if we end up, second or third or something, we qualify for Europe next season, we'll need to put somebody else there. But you can't expect every position to be filled in one transfer window. That's just not realistic. Right now, we've really done our homework transfer-wise. We've gotten the players that we need, pretty much, and we've gotten the key signings. I don't think that the RCB position is a top priority. And right now, I think just we need to get the left wing back. And then if we can get Fasnacht on top of that, I think that will be some great business. Of course, I wouldn't say no to someone like Kaan IN, but at the same time, you're paying 4 or 5 million euros for him then. And we're getting 6.5 million with bonuses for Ridvan. So we're basically spending all the Ridvan money then on Kaan IN. I think we're better off getting a good left wing back for 3.5 million or something like that, or get Fasnacht. You can get 2 players for the money we get for Ridvan. If you get Kaan IN, you only get 1 player basically. So yeah, last but not least, I wish Ridvan all the best for the Glasgow Rangers. I really hope he does well there. I am convinced that he can, because of course he's a good player, and the Scottish League is not that big of a step. The main adjustment for him will just be cultural. He'll need to get used to a different lifestyle, different language, different mentality of people. But Scotland can be a great opportunity for him. I think Rangers are a great club, and I really hope that Ridvan flourishes there, and that in a couple of seasons, Fischer's get to make some more money on him when he moves to the Premier League or something like that.
Yeah, there it is. And so, you see, neither one of these guys differs much. The consensus is that we need to make a move. Neither of these guys, additionally, is hitting the panic button. I don't know if you gathered that from these two, but neither one of them is saying Istifa, get Big Val out of here, bring back Shenel Gunesh, right? And that's a huge chorus on Twitter. And frankly, I'm just going to put this out there. We're not a club, but we're not, as followers, we're not supposed to be about individuals, right? I think there's the difference between an opinion and an agenda, right? My opinion was that I wasn't a big fan of Burak Yilmaz. He wouldn't succeed, right? And I turned out to be wrong. And I was thrilled about that. And I readily acknowledged it, because you don't want to be right when your team is bringing in a guy who you think is not going to do well, right? So he did great, and I was thankful. That was an opinion, and it was a wrong take, right? I owned up to that. Now, an agenda is something that, like, where your opinion doesn't end when you're wrong, or even right, I suppose. But like, when you almost want to be right more than you want what's best for your team, right? Where like you think that we need this coach, whether it's Sergen Yalchin or Şenol Güneş or whoever it is from the past, Slaven Bilic, right? And because you're so dead set on that guy being the right guy for our club, you are rooting against the club in the short term so that what's happening now gets ousted and you get your way. Right? People are like, oh, get rid of the three-man back line. As I said, that's ridiculous. We've literally purchased a whole host of players around playing this way. We've given Valérien Ismaël now the chance to implement his system. People are like, oh, if we're not successful by match day 4, he's got to go. What? Like, it's a whole season, right? The season is much longer than 4 matches, and you can easily get your crap together again after 4 matches, even if they're terrible matches. We, like, in our championship run, we had a slow start. I don't know, like under Sergen Yalchin, remember? And we got it together. I mean, often that's the case with Beşiktaş, that we have phenomenal second halves of the season. I'm not saying we should be doing that. Of course, you'd like for us to hit the ground running, have no problems, no hiccups, just the perfect, right? Everyone just adopts the new system perfectly with no adjustment period, no growing pains, and that's it. We don't even have to worry. But, like, is that a realistic outcome? Come on. Everyone needs to chill out. First of all, we just lost a friendly match with a fully makeshift back line, right? The key signing, and I said this at the time, was probably Romain Saiz, right? Where the 3-man back line is the key aspect, besides the wing backs, right? You need a good, solid 3-man back line so that those wing backs can freely get upfield. We haven't seen that 3-man back line yet. Even Wellington, right? Like, Montero was injured. Ismaël often gave Montero the start over Wellington. And I've always said that that's my... Right? Even if they're like... If Wellington is like nominally better now, Montero is so much younger that he can like improve and make us a lot of money. Right? Supposedly we were already getting like a $6 million offer from Sevilla right before they got Marcao. I don't know if that's very factual. You never quite know. But point being, he has that capacity, right? He's young enough. He's good enough. And he can actually keep developing as he's done thus far. He has progressively played better and better for us. So I don't think we've even seen close to our actual the 3-man back line, right? It's going to be Saiz, Montero, or Wellington, and Emre Can, who's only now played like 11 minutes for us so far in a friendly. And he was really solid. Everyone seems to have thought that. I agree. So people need to relax. Like, take your finger away from the panic button. Put the little plastic case back over it. You know what I'm saying? Go out for a walk. Drink a glass of water. You know, maybe sit on your balcony if you have one, or whatever that's like the scenario is for you. Right? Get some fresh air. Relax. We have 2 friendlies left. Right? Should be fun. I'm certainly looking forward to them. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered. But let's have fun with it. Our next match, we're considered the away side. We're playing Deportivo Alavés tomorrow. That is July 26th. It's at 1 p.m. here in New York City on the eastern coast of the United States. Check your local listings. After that, we're not done yet. We have another friendly still. Sampdoria on Saturday, July 30th. We're considered the home team. It's scheduled now at noon here locally. Again, check your local listings, and that can change. Those things have been fluid. If you hear the thunder and lightning out there, again, right, that's just the weather telling us the strife, here's our issue. Can we overcome it? I think the answer is yes, folks. Don't worry. All we need is a left wing back. It's not a huge issue. Oh yeah, and supposedly we're looking to offload Georges Cavin and Kudu. Another little late breaking news thing there, but I don't know if we need to do that. Hopefully we don't have to. Oh, and of course, as Aaron alluded to, Beşiktaş has purchased a player from Bandırmaspor. He's a striker. 23-year-old Senegalese forward, Phillipe Kény. Quite a successful spell at Bandırma. Lower level. We'll see how he does. He's young enough that he can, he's obviously for the bench. He can play behind Weghorst and Cenk Tosun. Even Muleka, right? Jackson Muleka. Sometimes we play the two men up front. He's one of those guys. So he's a bench option, but he's young enough at 23 that he can potentially maybe develop into something more. So we'll see how that goes. But, so yeah, a little bit of news there, right? Maybe we're letting go of Nkudu. It seems like we're bringing in this Kény fellow. We don't know what the deal is with Fastnacht anymore, or Giovanni Cabral. We'll wait for more on that. We could use some depth on the wing still. But yeah, all in all, the main thing is we need a left wing back. And there's some question about whether we need another central defender. Aaron seems to suggest we do. Again, I'm all right with Montero, frankly, but if we can make an upgrade, if we can get some more depth, especially on the Turkish side, Emirhan Topçu, for example, why not? Might as well give it a go, right? Low risk, low reward. He probably won't be too expensive, you hope. We're playing hardball with that. Also, I've long said that I would love if we could get like Kaan Ayhan or Koray Gunter, right? There's talk of Kaan Ayhan, but I think it was like fanatic, so let's not even really give it the light of day. But anyway, that's the last straggling bits of pieces of news and whatnot. Let's round this thing out. Anyway, stay tuned for more. As always, follow us on Twitter at Eagles_podcast. Follow our first guest, Aaron Armstrong, at Aaron E. Armstrong. Follow our second guest, and they're both really even co-hosts. I shouldn't call them guests anymore. And of course, Kaan is a long-time co-host, so that's almost even disrespectful. But yeah, follow him at Razzerian, Razzerian. Follow myself at Sir_Rights_a lot. Follow us on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast, one word. And as always, let's go Beşiktaş! This is going to be a fun season. It's a mystery. We have no idea what's going to happen. Everyone is coming into this one we don't know what we're coming up against. Should be fantastic. I'm thrilled for it. And I'm excited to see what we do with these last two preseason friendlies. So many questions. So many guys that need to slide into this rotation, maybe score for a goal. A couple things to get their morale up, but hopefully we'll find it.
Yoldan geldi.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.